Joining us now is Coach Jay Gruden. And if you're not following Coach on Twitter right now and checking out his podcast he does with his son JJ, Taking the Points, you're missing out on some winners. Because I don't know too many former NFL head coaches who are 224, 209, and 10 ATS this year, betting every single NFL game against the spread. Coach, happy holidays. Thanks for joining us. We'll get to your betting stuff now because I'm fascinated by it. But first, I want to ask you about the holidays because you tweeted out a picture of you and your family, your brother's there, your son's there, nieces and nephews. My vibe is Christmas with the Grudens involves some form of competition. It could be Monopoly. It could be backyard football. But am I right on my read that there was some form of competition? You guys don't take it lightly.
Yeah. Well, it depends. I didn't get to spend a lot of time with my brother. We kind of drove through. My oldest son lived in Tampa, so we saw him. Then we went and saw my brother and my dad. And then I went to Daytona to see my other son. So we were traveling quite a bit, so we didn't have time to really sit down and enjoy the competitiveness that we usually do.
Okay, well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, happy holidays. Thanks for joining us. I want to touch on some quarterbacks and some offenses with you. The first one, there's been a heavy debate about Brock Purdy, and is he a system quarterback or is he someone who could be successful somewhere else, as he dropped from the MVP race from a heavy favorite to now about 8-1 over at DraftKings. When you see what happened with Brock Purdy against Baltimore over the weekend, what are you seeing that Baltimore was able to force him to do? And can you touch on that system quarterback thing that everyone's debating now with him?
Yeah, I mean, you play in a system. Every quarterback plays in a system. That's your job as a quarterback to make it work and be productive in that system. Somebody's calling the plays, and you have to execute the plays, and Brock has been doing it at a very high level. Now, Baltimore has taken other systems from other teams and made good players look very ordinary. They have a very good defense and a very good scheme. They got some tip balls, and Brock didn't have his best game. Kyle Shanahan didn't have his best game as a play caller. And it was just kind of like it rains, it pours sometimes, and that's what happened in that game. But I still consider Brock one of the better quarterbacks in the league, no matter what system he's in. He's got to deliver the ball on time and accurately and to the right people, and he's done a great job of doing that.
Jay, as an offensive mind, what have you seen that's deficient with the Kansas City Chiefs so far this year? They've had 8 games where they've scored 21 points or less.
Yeah, it's clear to me. It's the receiving group. They don't get any separation. And now the linemen are having trouble protecting. So when you have to wait for these receivers to get open, obviously it puts a stress on the offensive line. And then Patrick is starting to abort mission a little bit sooner than he usually does. Now, he's always been an ad-lib type guy. He always makes plays off schedule. But now it's becoming more the norm than the abnorm. He's doing it on every play. It's a 3-step drop. He's turning into a scramble drill. It's a play action pass and scramble drill. So they got to get some plays that are on time and in rhythm. But it's very hard because these receivers are not getting separation and getting open.
All right, another quarterback. He's playing tomorrow night, and it's Joe Flacco with the Browns. The last time we saw Joe Flacco with the Jets, he did not look like this. Can you kind of explain to us what it is Stefanski and that system is doing to make Joe Flacco look like this when the guy they paid all that guaranteed money, Deshaun Watson, hasn't looked anything close to what Flacco's looked like the last few weeks?
Well, yeah, he's taking what the defense is giving him. He's not trying to do too much. He has a very good receiver, Amari Cooper, and Njoku is playing extremely well at tight end, and they have a good, strong running game despite losing Nick Chubb. Ford is a really good back, and they really are a very balanced football team where they don't rely solely on one thing, the running game or the passing game. They have a good mixture of plays, play action passes, quick game, screens outside of the receivers, screens of the backs, plays that are easy for a quarterback. And when Joe is forced to make a throw, he's still got plenty of armor to make it. So he's got the downfield threat that he can rip it, but he also can get the ball out quickly and on time and have a strong running game with support, but also a great defense that keeps them in games.
Jay, when you look at the Chicago Bears, what would you do if you're their front office with Justin Fields and a potential to draft Caleb Williams?
Yeah, I think the time is probably up for Justin Fields in Chicago. I think Justin Fields is a good quarterback, and I think he's got a lot of football left in him. But I think if you have a chance to get one of these top 2 or 3 quarterbacks coming out this year, you got to take a chance. And Justin's had plenty of time to show or not show if he's a true quarterback that can lead your franchise for the future. I just think you have to take a chance with either Caleb Williams or Drake May or the kid at LSU.
Well, Jay, they're in a weird spot because there's always the thought of the clock and paying these quarterbacks, and the GMs are worried about their jobs when the clock is starting for them and how long they have to show improvement. I'd compare it almost to like Atlanta, right? you have to evaluate what you have. When you look at like what Atlanta has with Desmond Ridder, what happened this year and Heineke taking over again, I think Arthur Smith was put in a weird spot where he thought he could take anyone and turn them into a quarterback that could take them to the playoffs. How hard is that as a head coach, especially an offensive mind like yourself, where you have to kind of check your ego at the door and say, you know what, this guy may not be good enough for me to get this team to the playoffs? Like when you look at that Atlanta situation, how shocked you that Desmond Ridder went on as long as he was as the starter?
Yeah, pretty shocked, but he has a young, talented kid. You got to give some of these young guys the benefit of the doubt. You got to let these guys play. You know, sometimes they're going to come out as young players, and they're going to struggle from time to time. But the key is to see if they can show progress and continue to get better and better. That's what you're looking for as a head coach, and that's what you want your quarterback. He might struggle early. A lot of Peyton Manning wasn't very good his rookie year. Some of these Hall of Fame type quarterbacks struggled in their first couple of years. It takes a lot of time for these guys to see defenses, to get used to the speed, get used to the people around them, get used to your play caller and the plays that are coming in on the headset. So you hate to be so quick to pull the trigger on some of these guys because it does take time. But if you're not seeing the necessary progress, then you do have to have a quick trigger. You got to find somebody else in there through the draft or free agency and try to make your team better.
Just to follow up on that, if Arthur Smith didn't make a change to Taylor Heineke, was he in a position where he could potentially lose the locker room, or is that somewhat of an overused term? Just from your perspective as a former coach, how do you evaluate that as the coach in that particular spot?
The locker room's a strong place down there. They aren't blind. They watch the film. They're at practice every day, and they understand what it takes for a quarterback to be successful. And if there's a guy on the field behind a guy that's struggling, he's doing well in practice, they all see it, and they want him in there. You know, it's happened right now in Washington right now. You see Jacoby Brissett taking over for Sam Howell. I mean, Sam had some good games. He really did, and he showed a lot of promise. But the last couple of weeks, Jacoby has played very well, and they had to make the switch. And that happens a lot in pro football. If you're not performing up to the level of the expectations your team has and somebody else is playing well behind you, that guy's got to play.
Jay Gruden, our guest, former Washington head coach with us. I want to ask you about a team that was not that far from you when you were coaching in the Ravens. Lamar is currently the favorite for MVP right now over at DraftKings -170. When we look at Lamar, a lot of us, you know, who are not coaches, don't know how to break down film. We look at the stats and we go, they're not sexy. Can you make the case that Lamar is playing better than the numbers would indicate this year?
Yeah, the numbers don't always tell the whole story. I mean, Lamar gets out of trouble more than anybody. You know, Josh Allen, there's some guys that can really get out of trouble, but Lamar's like Houdini back there. He doesn't take a lot of negative plays. He keeps his team in ball games. He's not making any mistakes, really. He's putting the ball out there where it needs to go, and he understands that he has a good defense around him, and he's going to get the ball back quickly, so he's not forcing the issue. So, you know, sometimes quarterbacks don't have to put up the gaudy numbers. You just have to perform when it's necessary on crunch time, third downs, red zone, fourth quarter, game on the line, and that's what Lamar's been doing, and that's what he's been doing his whole career. That's why he's probably front runner for MVP. It's not about how many yards you have on a given week. It's about the production you have with your team, winning games and putting them in the right situation and making plays in crunch time.
Coach, we have about a minute left. Which teams are going to represent the AFC and the NFC here in Las Vegas for the Super Bowl from your estimation?
I think it's going to be a rematch of the game we just saw. I think San Francisco is going to get their guys back and get everybody healthy and play extremely well because I think they're the most rounded team, offense, defense, special teams. And I think Baltimore is too. The offense, defense, special teams. I look at the whole group of the football team and how they can win games. Both teams don't have to put up 60 points to win. They can win on defense. They can win on offense. They can do it all. They can run the football. They can throw it, and they're all well-rounded, well-coached.
Well, Coach, thank you for making time for us. I know it's a crazy time of year, especially with you traveling so much. Happy New Year. Happy holidays to you and the family. We really appreciate you doing this.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.